Hello everybody, welcome to episode 4 of How I Learned to Code, and this is part 2 of Applied Visual Design. As you can see, I added just a list of things that were in part 1. It took us about an hour, and here is the link to the full video. So let's dive right in. This is where we had stopped. Let me check if I added that into our notes. Lock an element to the browser. Right, so to the browser window with fixed positioning. The next layout scheme that CSS offers is the fixed position, which is a type of absolute positioning that locks an element relative to the browser window. Okay, let me try to understand that. So it's like, okay, makes sense, I guess. Relative to the browser window. Similar to absolute positioning, it's used with the CSS offset properties and also removes the element from the normal flow of the document. Oh, right, okay, so that's probably why I didn't understand everything related to the relative positioning and absolute, because one breaks the normal flow and one doesn't. Other items no longer realize where it is positioned, which may require some layout adjustments elsewhere. One key difference between the fixed and absolute positions is that an element with a fixed position won't move when the user scrolls. The navigation, okay, so if it's fixed, it won't move. If it's absolute, it might move, or relative, I guess, might also move. Those were the two options we learned before, right? Absolute and relative. Right, and now fixed. The navigation bar in the code is labeled with an ID of navbar. So this thing here, this is a navigation bar. Change its position to fixed and offset it to 0 pixels from the top and 0 pixels from the left. Notice the lack of impact to the H1 position. I guess this is H1. Oh no, H1 is welcome. It hasn't been pushed down to accommodate the navigation bar and would need to be adjusted separately. Okay, so I wonder if there's a way to pop this out. Okay, I thought there might be a way to, just have this window, but it's okay, I guess this is enough. So we're just going to tell it to have a fixed position. Oh, what happened now? Okay, so I'm guessing the paragraph here acts as if this navbar doesn't exist after I change it into a fixed position. So it's probably underneath here. And then let's say top 0px. Right, exactly. So that goes to the top. Left 0px. 10 pushes that a bit. Okay. Okay, so this kind of makes sense. This is kind of easier to understand. Right. Alrighty. Push elements left or right with the float property. The next positioning tool does not actually use position, but sets the float property of an element. Floating elements are removed from the normal flow of a document and pushed to either left or right of their containing parent element. Parent is called, right? It's commonly used with the width property to specify how much horizontal space the floated element requires. So if I tell it should have this much width and it should go to the left, I'm telling how much horizontal space it requires. Okay, I'm not sure I understand. The given markup would work well as a 2-column layout with the section and aside elements. The section and aside elements. Oh, okay, so there are two. This is a way to declare 2 elements. I didn't know that. Next to each other. Okay, right, so they want content here and sidebar over here, or the other way around. Give the left item a float of left and the right item a float of right. So, okay, so section ID left aside and section. Okay, so there's an element called aside and an element called section, and then there's a class called right and left. So we're telling that these should both have a 2 pixel padding and should have a background color of gray. And then the right should have 40% width and the left should have 50% width. And down here is the content and the ID left and right. Okay, so all we have to do is float left and then float right. And I can also change this to 50, should be okay. Okay, that's not enough. Sorry, that's too much. What about 450? 45? Yeah. Okay, 40. What if I do left? That's just gonna go underneath. Oh, right. It's okay. Interesting. It pushes it to the left, but because this is already here, what if I do right? Oh, right, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Of course, the sad thing is that you don't have the solution here, but I mean, you can just copy paste this code and then, follow the link and then copy paste this code. Change the position of overlapping elements with the ZIndex property. Okay, Z sounds like the third dimension. Like, which thing is above the other one. When elements are positioned to overlap, the element coming later in HTML markup will, by default, appear on the top of the other elements. Okay, that makes sense in a way. However, the ZIndex property can specify the order of how elements are stacked on top of one another. It must be an integer, whole number, and higher values for the ZIndex of an element move it higher in the stack than those with lower values. Add a ZIndex property to the element with the class name of first, the red rectangle, and set it to a value of 2 so it covers the other element, the blue rectangle. Okay, so first is the red one. Give it a ZIndex of 2. That's it. Why not? Well, because, we don't have this example anywhere. Center an element horizontally using the margin property. Another positioning technique is to center a block element horizontally. One way to do it is to set its margin to a value of auto. This method works for images too. Images are inline elements by default, but can be changed to block elements when you set the display property to block. So what's a block element? Okay, right, I think I remember. An inline element can be inline, and a block element means that it starts with a new line. Is that correct? Can we look for that? Block. Right, exactly. Block level items automatically start on a new line. Okay, great. So all we have to do is give it a margin of auto. So let's open this in a new window. Do the same thing. And then resize the window. Yeah, it's always in the middle. Okay. This one's pretty easy. Learn about complementary colors. I guess this means like colors that work well with one another. Looks good to the eye, doesn't hurt the eye, it's easy to distinguish the elements, I guess, things like that. Color theory and its impact on design is a deep topic, and only the basics are covered in the following challenges. On a website, color can draw attention to content, evoke emotions, or create visual harmony. Using different combinations of colors can really change the look of a website, and a lot of thought can go into picking a color palette that works with your content. The color wheel is a useful tool to visualize how colors relate to each other. It's a circle where similar hues are neighbors and different hues are further apart. When two colors are opposite each other on the wheel, they are called complementary colors. Okay, they have the characteristic that if they are combined, they cancel each other out and create a gray color. However, when placed side by side, these colors appear more vibrant and produce a strong visual contrast. Some examples are red and cyan, green and magenta, blue and yellow. This is different than the outdated RYB color model that many of us were taught in school, which has different primary and complementary colors. Modern color theory used the additive RGB model, like on a computer screen, and the subtractive CMYK model, like in printing. Yeah, I think I mentioned this in one of the videos. Read here for more information on this complex subject. I wonder, is the link copied here as well? It is. Great. There are many color picking tools available online that have an option to find the complement of a color. Note, for all color challenges, using color can be a powerful way to add visual interest to a page. However, color alone should not be used as the only way to convey important information because users with visual impairments may not understand that content. This issue will be covered in more detail in the applied accessibility challenges. So, change the background color property of the blue and yellow classes to their respective colors. Notice how the colors look different next to each other than they do compared against the white background. Okay. Yellow, blue. Yeah, I see a bit what they mean, but I guess I need more visual examples. Learn about tertiary colors. Oops. Computer monitors and device screens create different colors by combining amounts of red, green, and blue light. This is known as the RGB additive color model in the modern color theory. Red, green, and blue are called primary colors. Mixing two primary colors creates the secondary colors. You saw these colors in the complementary colors challenge. Did I? I didn't see these. Oh, okay, yeah. I saw them in the explanation. These secondary colors happen to be the complement to the primary color and not used in their creation and are opposite to the primary color on the color wheel. For example, magenta, is it magenta or magenta? I'm not sure. I think it's magenta, is made with red and blue and is the complement to green. Tertiary colors are the result of combining primary color with one of its secondary color neighbors. For example, red and yellow make orange. This adds 6 more colors to a simple color wheel for a total of 12. There are various methods of selecting different colors that result in harmonious combination in design. One example that can use tertiary colors is called the split complementary color scheme. This scheme starts with a base color, then pairs it with 2 colors that are adjacent to its complement. 3 colors provide a strong visual contrast in our design but are more subtle than using 2 complementary colors. Here are the 3 colors created using the split complement scheme. Change the background color property of these classes to their respective colors. Make sure to use the hex codes as orange and raspberry aren't. Oh, okay. Not browser recognized color names. Gotcha. So we have to use the hex codes. That looks nice. I like this. I like these 3 color combination. Adjust the color of various elements to complementary colors. Complementary Colors Challenge showed that opposite colors on the color wheel can make each other appear more vibrant when placed side by side. However, the strong visual contrast can be jarring if it's overused on a website and can sometimes make text harder to read if it is placed on a complementary color background. In practice, one of the colors is usually dominant, and the complement is used to bring visual attention to certain content on the page. This page will use a shade of teal as the dominant color and its orange complement to visually highlight the sign up buttons. Change the background color of both the header and footer from black to teal. Then change the H2 text color to teal as well. Finally, change the background color of the button to orange. Change the both header and footer. Background color teal. that works, of header and footer to teal. Change H2 to teal. Nice. And then background color of the button to orange. That's it, right? I think that is it. Yeah, 3. That looks nice. I like it. Okay, we're supposed to use the hex codes, I guess. Orange works, but it shows a different color than the hex code. Okay, interesting. Okay. Adjust the hue of a color. Colors have several characteristics, including hue, saturation, and lightness. CSS3 introduced the HSL, so hue, saturation, lightness property, as an alternative way to pick a color by directly stating these characteristics. Hue is what people generally like to think of as color. If you picture a spectrum of color starting with red on the left, moving through green in the middle, and blue on the right, the hue is where a color fits along this line. Okay, hue uses a color wheel concept instead of the spectrum, where the angle of the color on the circle is given as a value between 0 and 360. Saturation is the amount of gray. A fully saturated color has no gray in it, and a minimally saturated color is almost completely gray. This is given as a percentage, as 100 is fully saturated. Lightness is the amount of white. A percentage is given ranging from 0, which is black, and to 100, which is white, where 50 is the normal color. Oh, okay, 50 is the normal color. Here are a few examples of using HSL with fully saturated normal lightness colors. So everything's 50% and 100, yeah. Change the background color of each div element based on the class names using HSL. All 3 should have full saturation and normal lightness. Okay, pretty simple. Oh, nothing is red. Green is here. Next up, and then the last one is this one. Right? Very easy. Adjust the tone of a color. The HSL option in CSS also makes it easy to adjust the tone of color. Mixing white with a pure hue creates a tint of that color, and adding black will make a shade. Alternatively, a tone is produced by adding gray and by both tinting and shading. Recall that the S and L stand for saturation and lightness. The saturation percent changes the amount of gray, and lightness percent determines how much white or black is in the color. This is useful when you have a base hue you like but need different variations of it. The navigation bar on this site currently inherits its background color from the header element. So let's see, how does it inherit it? Inherit, here we go. Color inherit. Starting with that color as a base, add a background color to the nav element so it uses the same hue but has 80% saturation and 25 lightness value to change its tone and shade. Okay, I'm not sure I understand. Nav element. Nav is nav li, nav here. So HSL. So it takes its background color from here, right? Starting with that color as base. Okay, I guess I'm supposed to do this. 80% saturation and 25% lightness. Oh, cool. Oh, so it's like the same hue but different lightness and saturation level. Okay, I like that. That's an easy way to use colors that are similar. You know, I think you used to have to find the hex codes for colors, but this is just an easier way. Nice. Of finding similar colors. Create a gradual CSS linear gradient. Oh, gradients are fun. Applying a color on HTML elements is not limited to one flat hue. CSS provides the ability to use color transitions, otherwise known as gradients, on elements. This is accessed through the background properties linear gradient function. Here is the general syntax. Background linear gradient, gradient direction, color 1, color 2, color 3. The first argument specifies the direction. It can be stated as a degree where 90 degrees makes a vertical gradient. Okay, the following arguments specify the order of colors used in the gradient. Use a linear gradient for the div element's background. So here, background, linear gradient. Set it to from a direction of 35 degrees to change the color from this color to this color. Set orange, semicolon. No? Oh, I need to add this word here, deg. Ooh, nice. Beautiful. While there are other ways to specify a color value like RGB or HSL, use hex values for this challenge. Okay, that's what I did anyway. That's what we did. So I can just add this one. Oh, maybe I could add a screenshot. That would be nice. Probably better if I take if I have an app for this, like GreenShot or something. Yeah. Well, I'll do that. Okay, so I should add that. So new tools. Install screenshot tool like GreenShot, ShareX. Was there any other? I think those two were pretty good. Okay. Applied visual design. Oh, so we created the gradual gradient, the linear gradient. Cool. Use a CSS linear gradient to create a striped element. Okay, I guess you can add as many colors as you want. So, you know, this seems pretty straightforward. The repeating linear gradient function is very similar to linear gradient, with the major difference that it repeats the specified gradient pattern. Oh, nice. Repeating linear gradient accepts a variety of values, but for simplicity you'll work with an angle value and color stop values. Color stop value in this challenge. The angle value is the direction of the gradient. Color stops are like width values that mark where a transition takes place and are given with a percentage or a number of pixels. In the example demonstrated in the code editor, the gradient starts with the color yellow at 0 pixels, which blends into the second color blue at 40 pixels from the start. Since the next color stop is also 40 pixels, the gradient immediately changes to the third color green, which itself blends into the fourth color, as that is 80 pixels away from the beginning of the gradient. What happens if I do this? So yellow is from 0 to 40, blue is from 40 to 40. I don't get this. Since the next color stop is also at 40 pixels, so 0 to 40, oh no, okay. 0 to 40 is the transition from yellow to blue. yellow to blue. And then 40 to 80 is the transition from green to red. Right. So technically what I could do, 20, 40, 60. And then I can do yellow again, 80 px. Yellow, yellow. What happened? That happened. Cool, I like this better. If every further, it helps to think about the color stops as pairs where every two colors blend together. Yeah, if you want a color stop, that is. I don't want a color stop. Make stripes by changing the repeating linear gradient to use a gradient angle of 45 degrees, then set the first two color stops to yellow, and finally the second two color stops to black. So reset all code. So 45 degrees. And first two color stops to yellow. Not sure I understand. Is it this? 0 to 40, 40 to 80. Yes, but like, would we even need this? So it should be the same. Yeah, so I'm not sure this is what they want. Let's see. The second color stop at 40 pixels should be black. So like this. Oh, okay, now I see. Yellow to yellow, black to black. I think that's what they want. Yep, okay. Create a texture by adding a subtle pattern as a background image. One way to add texture and interest to a background and have it stand out more is to add a subtle pattern. The key is balance, as you don't want the background to stand out too much and take away from the foreground. The background property supports the URL function in order to link to an image of the chosen texture or pattern. The link address is wrapped in quotes inside the parentheses. Using the URL of set the background of the whole page with the body selector. Okay, so I can just do background. The URL function, right? URL. That did not work. Your body element should have a background property set. Okay, so I guess it's not like this, but like this. Yeah, okay, interesting. So the URL is actually a function. Use the CSS Transform scale property to change the size of an element. To change the scale of an element, CSS has the Transform property. Didn't we have Transform before? Text Transform. Oh, right. Okay. along with its scale function. The following code example doubles the size of all the paragraph elements on the page. Transform scale 2. Increase the size of the element with the ID of ball 2. This one. Okay, just transform scale 1.5 and then semicolon. Yeah, that worked. Same as the example. Use the CSS Transform scale property to scale an element on hover. Oh, interesting. So it will only scale when there is a mouse hovered over it. Has a variety of functions that lets you scale, move, rotate, skew, etc. your elements. When used with the pseudo classes such as hover that specify a certain state of an element, the transform property can easily add interactivity to your elements. Here's an example to scale a paragraph elements to 2.1 times their original size when a user hovers over them. Now it's just like a : hover for this pseudo class. Transform scale 2.1. That makes sense. To the div. Oh wait. Add from the hover state of the div and use the transform property. Okay, so div is already defined. I guess here I have to do this because I just want a pseudo class. I need the parentheses. Yeah, that's it. Nice. Pretty cute. I like it like a bit less would be better. Yeah, that's better. I mean, 10% is a lot. Okay. Use the transform property skew x to skew an element along the x-axis. The next function of the transform property is skew x, which skews the selected element along its x horizontal axis by a given degree. The following code skews the paragraph element by 32 degrees along the x-axis. Skew the element with the ID of bottom by 24 degrees along the by using no. Okay, bottom. Transform. Oh wait. Right, this is not hover or anything. Right. Skew x. 24 deg. Okay, I'd like a screenshot of that. Ah. Okay, easy peasy. Learned how to skew. Use the y-axis. Okay, same thing. In a way, like why would you have two pages for this? I mean, it's the same thing. So top y transform, top transform skew y -10. Right? Isn't that it? Oh, I have to add deg or something. There we go. Okay. Create a graphic using CSS. What's that supposed to mean? Ooh, create a graphic. By manipulating different selectors and properties, you can make interesting shapes. One of the easier ones to try is a crescent moon shape. For this challenge, you need to work, I guess for a crescent I would use 2 circles, right? Yeah. You would need to work with the box shadow property that sets the shadow of an element along with the border radius property. Ah, okay. That controls the roundness of the element's corners. You will create a round transparent object with a crisp shadow that is slightly offset to the side of the shadow. It's actually going to be the moon shape you see. In order to create a round object, the border radius property should be at least 50%. That's exactly what we said in a previous video, yes. You may recall from an earlier challenge that the box shadow property takes values for offset x, y, blur radius, spread radius, and a color, in that order. The blur radius and spread radius values are optional. Manipulate the square element in the editor to create the moon shape. First, change the back. Okay, let's not read that. So, okay, we have to read it. First, change the background color to transparent. Where's the square element? Dot center, center. Background color is blue. Does this work? I'm not sure. Okay, it works. Okay, it's transparent. Then set the border radius to 50%. And the box shadow offset x should be 25, 10, blur radius should be 0, and this should also be 0, and the color blue. Nice. That worked well. Okay guys, sorry, I am going to install a screenshot tool. Before I do, I just want to check which one is better. It's been a while since I used one. Okay, so that was that. Perfect. Create a more complex shape. Ooh. Sorry. One of the most popular shapes in the world is the heart shape, and in this challenge you'll create one using pure CSS. Ooh, a heart shape. I wonder how I would go on about creating that. I can't. I mean, circles, obviously. Yeah, let's see. But first you need to understand the before and after pseudo elements. These pseudo elements are used to add something before or after a selected element. In the following example, a before pseudo element is used to add a rectangle to an element with the class heart. Heart before, content nothing. What the hell is content? Background color yellow, border radius 25, yada yada. So, okay. For the before and after pseudo elements to function properly, they must have a defined content property. Okay, this property is usually used to add things like a photo or text to the selected elements. When the before and after pseudo elements are used to make shapes, the content property is still required, but it's set to an empty string, like here. Okay, the above example, the element with the class of heart has a before pseudo element that produces a yellow rectangle with a border radius with height and width 50 and 70 pixels respectively. This rectangle has round corners due to its 25% radius and is positioned absolutely at 5 pixels from the left and 50 pixels above the top of the element. Absolute. Right, so if it's absolute, it takes it from the parent element, I think. Not it takes it, but that's the reference point, I think. Transform the element on the screen to a heart. And the heart after selector, change the background color to pink. And the border radius to 50, so it's going to be a circle. Next, target the elements with the class heart. This one. And fill the transform property. Okay, rotate. Use the rotate function with 45 degrees. Rotate works the same way that skew x and skew y do. So 45. Wait. Okay, this is the square. Finally, in the heart before selector, set the contents to an empty string. Okay, so we can't see this because it doesn't have any contents yet. So I just want to see what the thing is that's coming. Let me think. What could we add here to turn this into a heart? I don't know. Oh, right, if it's pink, now it's a heart. Okay. I don't really understand what before and after is supposed to mean. Why aren't we just creating two more elements? Like heart? Let's try that. So instead of dot heart after, let's just say heart 2 and heart 3 and relative. Oh, so maybe we don't have to change that. We just need to add them. Heart 2, heart 3, and relative. But relative to what? Okay, so I think they're here. Alright, that's the only thing, right? I mean, position absolute. Oh, don't want this either. Okay, yeah, so technically it's possible. It's just an easier way, like to make it just, you're making these two circles attach this square. Do we want that? Yeah, why not? So it creates a heart. Now, transform, rotate 45. Oh, minus 45. Plus I didn't put DEG. Oh, gotcha. Well, the other one was also a heart, but not the heart that FreeCodeCamp wants us to create. Okay, so this was the complex shape. Learn how the CSS at keyframes and animation properties work. Ooh, animate. To animate an element, you need to know about the animation properties and the at keyframes rule. The animation properties control how the animation should behave, and the keyframes rule controls what happens during the animation. There are 8 animation properties in total. This challenge will keep it simple and cover the 2 most important ones first. Animation name sets the name of the animation, which is later used by at keyframes to tell CSS which rules go with which animation. Animation duration sets the length of the time for the animation. At keyframes is how to specify exactly what happens within the animation over the duration. Okay, I guess this animation is just a frame-by-frame animation. This is done by giving CSS properties for specific frames during the animation with percentages ranging from 0 to 100%. If you compare this to a movie, the CSS properties for 0 is how the element displays in the opening scene, and 100 at the end right before the credits. The CSS applies the magic to transition the element over the given duration to act out the scene. Oh, really? Here's an example to illustrate the usage of at keyframes and the animation properties. Anim colorful 3 seconds, keyframes colorful background blue, background yellow, duration 3 seconds. What, really? And then it animates between those two? That's great. For the element with the anim ID, the code snippet above sets the animation name to colorful and sets the animation duration to 3 seconds. Then the at keyframes rule links to the animation properties with the name colorful. Okay, here, at keyframes colorful. It sets the color to blue, background color, 0%, which will transition to yellow by the end of the animation. You aren't limited to only beginning and end transitions. You can set properties for the element for any percentage between 0 and 100. Create an animation for the element with the ID rect. Okay. Animation name, rainbow, apparently. Animation duration 4S. And then at keyframes rainbow, right? 0%. Next, declare a @keyframes rule and set the background color at the beginning of the animation to blue. Background color blue. And then 100% background. And then what's the second color they want? Yellow. No. Yellow. And then they also want 50% background color green. Okay. Was that supposed to work? So, animation name rainbow. Just like your animation name, animation duration 4S. At keyframes open 0% open close background color blue semicolon semicolon close close. So this should work. For some reason it's not working. Let's see. The element with the ID of rect should have an animation duration. Animation duration. There we go. Nice, nice. You can actually animate in HTML. I didn't know that. I wonder if you can do like let's do this. Border radius 5, 50%. Oh yeah. Cool. And then yellow 5 again. Okay, so now it just stopped for some reason. Nice. Use CSS animation to change the hover state. Nice. That's pretty cool. So it's only going to animate once the mouse is hovered, I guess. 40. You can use to change the color of a button in its hover state. Here's an example. So style image hover, animation name width, duration half a second, keyframes width 40. Oh, so it starts with whatever the image size is, I guess, and then it ends with 40 pixels. End of style, source, small logo, alt, Google's logo. Note that MS stands for milliseconds, 1000, right? Used to change the background color of the button element so it becomes when a user hovers over it. I just want to give this a shot. Let's see if that works. Right, so where is the animation? Oh, on hover. No way. That can't be right. Or 2 seconds. Yeah, this is not really nice. That's better, right? Initial. Can we do that? This is weird. Let's do 100%. Does that work? Oh wow. Okay. Okay, why would they do this? Why would they want 500 milliseconds? Okay, whatever. So I wouldn't say this is a nice animation, and this one doesn't even really work. Okay, so use to change the background color of the button element so it becomes when users hover over it. So I'll go back to the original thing. Button hover, animation duration. Animation name is background color. So I then have to do at background color, and then background color should be this. Is this not? Oh, I didn't put 100%. 100%. There. No? Let's see what's wrong. The keyframe rule should use the animation name background color. What? Oh, right. It is, right? Damn. There we go. Nice. Okay, cool. So I just have to add the at keyframes, of course, shouldn't forget that. Modify fill mode of an animation. That's great, but it doesn't work right yet. Notice how the animation resets after 500 milliseconds has passed, causing the button to revert back to the original color. You want the button to stay highlighted. This can be done by setting the animation fill mode property to forwards. The animation fill mode specifies the style applied to an element when the animation has finished. You can set it like so. Animation fill mode forwards. Set the animation fill mode property of button hover to forward so the button stays. So the fill mode is forward, so whatever comes at the end, I guess. I'm guessing it should come here. Set the animation fill mode property of button hover. Oh, okay. So when you hover, the animation fill mode should be forwards. Okay, let's try forwards. If I do backwards, it's gonna go back to blue. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's pretty simple. Create movement. Ooh, nice. When elements have a specified position, such as fixed or relative, the CSS offset properties right, left, top, and bottom can be used in animation rules to create movement. As shown in the example below, you can push the item downwards, then upwards by setting the top property of the 50% keyframe to 50, but having it set to 0 pixels for the first 0% and the last 100% keyframe. Add a horizontal motion to the div animation. Using the left offset property, add to the keyframes rule so rainbow starts at 0 pixels. So left 0 pixel, right? and then move to 25 pixels, left 25 pixels, and ends at minus 25, left minus 25 px. Don't replace the top property in the editor. The animation should have both vertical and horizontal motion. Okay. I think that worked. Kind of funny why it only does the animation once. I'd like to see it again. Oh, I can just change something, I guess. There. I think that's what they want. Yep. Create visual direction. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Visual direction? Movement and visual direction. Oops. For this challenge, you'll change the opacity of an animated element so it gradually fades as it reaches the right side of the screen. In the displayed animation, let's check the displayed animation. Vroom, vroom. The round element with the gradient background moves to the right by the 50% mark of the animation. Target the element with the ID ball, and add the opacity property set to 0.1 at 50%. There we go. Huh. Visual direction. Okay, is this visual direction? I don't get it. Great. Animate elements continually using an infinite animation count. Oh, cool. We're going into loops or something. Is it? No, it is 44. The previous challenges covered how to use some of the animation properties and the keyframes rule. Another animation property is the animation iteration count, which allows you to control how many times you would like to loop through the animation. Here's an example, 3. In this case, the animation will stop after running 3 times, but it is possible to make the animation run continuously by setting that value to infinite. To keep the ball bouncing, yada yada. So, is this in the at keyframes? Yes. But where? Is that important? Let's see. Animation iteration count infinite. Didn't really work. Oh no, shouldn't be here. Okay, no, that didn't work either. Change the animation iteration count property to infinite. Oh, okay, it's already here. So now it'll just keep on bouncing forever and ever. Okay. Make a CSS heartbeat using an infinite animation count. So, boom, 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 boom. Here's one more continuous animation example. The 1 second long heartbeat animation consists of 2 animation pieces. The heart elements, including the before and after pieces, are animated to change the size using the transform property, and the background div is animated to change its color using the background property. Keep the heart beating by adding the animation iteration count property for both the back class and the heart class and setting the value to infinite. The heart before and heart after selectors do not need any animation properties. Okay, so it takes them from the other one, I guess. Back and heart. Animation iteration count infinite. Why didn't that work? Is it doing it infinitely right now? Infinite. No. There's no typo, is there? Okay, let's see. Maybe you need both back and heart. Okay, interesting. Why is it like falling down? That's it? Scale 1, rotate 45. Why are we rotating it? Okay, so I don't really understand why we would need that. Oh, it's because of this guy. Right, so this works as well. Huh, and now it doesn't like bump. Because with the rotation, for some reason, you see, it like falls down. There's like a small glitch. Whatever, I think my animation is better. But we're not trying to create a better animation here. Animate elements at variable rates. So we're getting close to the end of this section, I think and hope. Let's see how many chapters there are left. Just a quick overview. Oh, a few more. Okay, let's just finish them all. There are a variety of ways to alter the animation rates of similarly animated elements. So far, this has been achieved by applying an animation iteration count property and setting add keyframes rules. To illustrate, the animation on the right consists of two stars that each decrease in size and opacity and the 20% mark in the keyframes rule, which creates the twinkle animation. You can change the keyframes rule for one of the elements so the stars twinkle at different rates. So twinkle 1, twinkle 2, at different rates. So how about this? So the animation length is the same, right? 1 second, 1 second. I can change this one to 2 seconds and it'll be, yeah, that's nice too. Okay, so let's reset. After the animation, alter the animation rate for the element with the class name of star1 by changing its keyframes to 50. Okay, I like this code. It's also good to have this code, you know, just, you know, the twinkle. If you want to do something similar, you can always use this code. In the previous challenge, okay, does this have the same, oops, the same header? Animate multiple elements at variable rates. Animate elements at variable rates. Okay. You change the animation rates for two similarly animated elements by altering their at keyframes rules. You can achieve the same goal by manipulating the animation duration of multiple elements. That's what I did. In the animation running in the code editor, there are 3 stars in the sky that twinkle at the same rate. To make them twinkle at different rates, you can set the animation duration to different properties, different values. Set the animation 1.9.1.1. Okay, so this one should stay 1, this one should be 0.9, and this one should be 1.1, not 11.1. Nice. Cool. I wonder when the browser would start to lag. So Do I need to... Oh, it doesn't need another... Oh, it does need a name. What? Wait, why? Where? Wait, what? Why aren't there 4 elements now? I don't get it. There should be a 4th one now. That's why. Okay, it's going to take a bit longer. Cool. So I'll just remove that. I think I copy-pasted the code, right? No, I didn't. But it's the same as the previous one, and that one I had copy-pasted. Change animation timing with keywords. In CSS animations, the animation timing function property controls how quickly an animated element changes over the duration of the animation. If the animation is a car moving from point A to point B in a given time, the animation timing function says how the car accelerates and decelerates over the course of a drive. Oh, nice, okay. Like bouncing or stopping or crashing. There are a number of predefined keywords available for popular options. For example, the default value is ease, which starts slow, speeds up, and then slows down again. Other options include ease out, which is quick in the beginning, then slows down, ease in, which is slow in the beginning, then speeds up, or linear, which applies a constant animation speed throughout. For the elements with ID of ball 1 and 2, add an animation timing function property to each and set ball. Okay, add an animation timing function property. Oh, for ball 1 and ball 2. Right? Notice the difference between how the elements move during the animation but end together. I don't really see them end together. Okay, they do. Yeah, I guess they do, but for me there's a bit of a small difference. So let's quickly check this code. Balls, border, radius, background, position is fixed. Need to understand how that works. Animation name bounce, duration 2 seconds, duration. And then ball 1, a class, and then bounce. Oh, balls ID ball 1, balls ID ball 2. So that's using both then. So in a way, I guess you could have done, balls 1 and then added this in here and then created another copy of this, balls 2, and then add that here or there, and then just add balls 1 and balls 2, or you create this and then 2 classes. Nice. Liking it. Learn how Bezier, is that how that's pronounced? Bezier. The last challenge introduced in the animation timing function property and a few keywords that change the speed of an animation over its duration. CSS offers an option other than keywords that provides even finer control. Oh, okay, I remember this from like Flash or something. In CSS animations, Bezier curves are used with the cubic Bezier function. Shape of the curve represents how the animation plays out. The curve lives on a 1x1 coordinate system. The x-axis of the coordinate system is the duration of the animation. Think of it as a timescale. And the y-axis is the change in the animation. The cubic Bezier function consists of 4 main points that sit on this 1x1 grid. P0, P1, P2, P3. P0 and P3 are set for you. Where? I don't see it. They are the beginning and end points, which are always located respectively at the origin of 0, 0, and 1, 1. You set the x and y values for the 2 other points, and where you place them in the grid dictates the shape of the curve for the animation to follow. This is done in CSS by declaring the x and y values of the P1 and P2 anchor points and the form x1, x1, y1, x2, y2. Pulling it all together, here's an example. 0.25, okay, so this is just x1 and x2, or let's say 0.1 and 0.2, but 0.0 and 0.3 are standardized. Right, yes, I can see that the x and y values are the same. Results in a line that extends from the origin to 0.11. This animation is a linear change of an element during the length of an animation and is the same as using the linear keyword. In other words, it changes at a constant speed. Change the value animation timing function property from linear to its equivalent cubic Bezier. Use the point values given in the example above. Okay, so just copy paste this thing in here. I mean, this is not very difficult. Oh, sorry. So this should be for here. Or I want to see this. I want to see that they're the same. Let me think. Are these points important? 0.25. Yeah, of course. So if I do 0.9, 0.9, this is not linear anymore, right? Oh, it is. Right, okay. Any point that has equal x and y's will be on the linear line. So if I do this, then it's not linear anymore. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Alright, it wants me to do this. Great. Use a Bezier curve to move a graphic. So what's the difference? Oh, like an image, I guess. A previous challenge discussed the ease out keyword that describes an animation change that speeds up first and then slows down at the end of the animation. On the right, the difference between the ease out keyword and linear is demonstrated. Right. Similar animation progression to the ease out keywords can be achieved by using a custom cubic Bezier curve function. In general, changing the P1 and P2 anchor points drives the creation of different Bezier curves, which controls how the animation progresses through time. Here's an example using values to mimic the ease out style. Okay, remember that all cubic functions start with P0, 0, and end with P3, 1. This example, the curve moves faster through the y-axis. It starts at 0, goes to P1 value at 0, then goes to P2 of 1. Then it then it moves through the x-axis, starts at 0, then 0 for P1, up to 0.58 at P2. As a result, the change in the animated element progresses faster than the time of the animation for that segment. Okay, so what was it? Which part was the time? X is time, right? So time goes faster than the animation itself. So the animation goes slower. I'm a bit confused. Towards the end of the curve, the relationship between the change in x and y values reverses. The y value moves from 1 to 1, and the x value moves from 0.58 to 1, making the animation changes progress slower compared to the animation duration. Okay, I'm a bit confused. Again, to see the effect of this in action, change the animation timing function of the element with the red with ID of red, this guy, to the Bezier function respectively to this. Okay, so cubic Bezier 0, 0, 0.58, 1. This is the same. Right. So this is the same as ease out. Make motion more natural using a Bezier curve. This challenge animates an element to replicate the movement of a ball being juggled. Prior challenges covered the linear and ease out. However, neither depicts the juggling movement. You need to customize a Bezier curve for this. The animation timing function automatically loops at every keyframe when the animation iteration count is set to infinite. Since there is a keyframe rule set in the middle of the animation duration at 50%, it results in 2 identical animation progressions at the upward and downward movement of the ball. Okay. This simulates a juggling movement. Notice that the value of y2 is larger than 1. Although the cubic Bezier curve is mapped on an 1-by-1 coordinate system, and it can only accept x values from 0 to 1, the y value can be set to numbers larger than 1, I guess because it's time. This results in a bouncing movement that is ideal for simulating the juggling ball. Change the value of the animation timing function of the element with the ID green to a cubic Bezier to these values. I will copy paste those. Nice. So this is the juggling ball. Okay, I see that. I see how that happens. Okay, we have finished the third section, Applied Visual Design. I will, of course, update the summary and worksheet workflow documents. I'll add, I don't think I have any questions. Well, I mean, some things aren't very clear, but some things will become a bit clearer when I create the summary video at the end of the week, or at least I will understand what I have to understand. So thank you for watching episode 3 and finishing the Applied Visual Design section with this second part video. And yeah, let me know what you think about these videos in the comments section, or please add your questions in there, or any other thing. That's much appreciated. Talk to you soon.